Thank you. Well, I was born with a very unusual visual condition called achromatism, which is total color blindness. So I've always seen things in grayscale. I've never seen blue, yellow, pink. I don't know what color looks like, even if someone tries to describe it very well. So as a child, I tried to ignore the existence of color, but it was really impossible because color is very social. It keeps being mentioned every single day of the life. So there's daily elements that contain colors like yellow pages, Bluetooth, Red Cross, orange, Greenpeace, Pink Panther, Red Bull. There's James Brown in his last name. So I kept hearing the names of colors every single day. I couldn't ignore that color exists. There's also this huge country called Greenland. So I kept hearing the names of colors. Also, when you use color as a code, it can be confusing. Hot water and cold water, sometimes they only use color codes or maps as well. This is fine, but if I go to Tokyo, I can get easily lost because some maps only use color codes. And when I was learning the colors of flags, I had this situation. So 3 countries share exactly the same flag. And if someone would ask me, have you seen a man with ginger hair, blue eyes, and dressed in pink? I would have no idea if I've seen this man, because the only information I get here is that the man has hair, that he has eyes, and that he's not naked, basically. So the reason why I wanted to sense color was not because I wanted to sense the beauty of color, but because I wanted to have this social element. I didn't want to change my sight, because to me, seeing in grayscale has many advantages. I have better night vision. I can see longer distances, because color doesn't interfere with distance. I can memorize shapes more easily, because color doesn't distract me from the shape. I can detect camouflages more easily, because many camouflages are based in color. And also, photocopies are cheaper in black and white. So this was always an advantage. So my aim was to sense color without changing my sight. I realized that there's been many theories relating color and sound. Newton created a theory centuries ago, so I was interested in sensing color through sound at the beginning. So we created the software in 2003 that transposed light frequencies to sound. If we could hear the frequency of red, we would hear a specific note, which is a note between F and F sharp. So the software was transposing the light into sound, and I was using a webcam and a 5-kilo computer in 2004 and a pair of headphones to hear color through my ears. And then I memorized the sound of each color, and then I was able to distinguish the colors around me through the sound that the light was creating. I kept upgrading the software until I was able to sense the 360 different microtones of the color wheel through different notes, like this. It's sine waves, so pure notes that go from red to violet. So it's very subtle now, but we're hearing the subtle differences. This gives me the sense of hue. Then we added different volume levels for the saturation levels. So if a color is very vivid, I hear it louder. If it's softer, it means that it's less saturated. And then when I was able to sense all the visual colors, I didn't see why I should stop there, because there's many more colors that surround us that the human eye cannot sense, like infrareds and ultraviolets. So in 2007, I decided to extend my perception of color beyond the visual spectrum, including the infrareds and the ultraviolets. So this now allows me, for example, to sense if there's infrared in this room. If there's infrared, it means that the movement detectors are working. So I can go to a shop or a bank and tell if the alarms are on or off. And in many cases, they are off. So you know that these movement detectors are not actually working in many cases. Also, ultraviolet perception allows me to detect if it's a good day or a bad day to sunbathe. If I feel there's a high level of ultraviolet, I avoid the sun, or I put some extra cream so that I can protect myself from ultraviolet. My aim is to continuously extend my perception of color beyond the infrareds and ultraviolets, and this merging with technology will allow me to do so. I didn't want to use my ears to hear colors, and I didn't want to use any of my existing body parts, so I thought of having a new body part implanted. I didn't want to use technology or wear technology. I wanted to become technology. I didn't want to have a wearable or a tool. I wanted to have a new body part. So first I thought of having a third eye implanted in the middle of my head, but this would limit my color perception to what I have in front. So then I decided I would create a new body part, and I thought an antenna would be the best. And instead of using my ears, I would use directly a connection to my head, to my bones. So I would have a chip that would vibrate inside my skull and vibrate depending on the light frequency. So I designed an antenna, which basically has a chip inside that vibrates depending on the light frequencies. So the vibration of color goes inside the skull and it vibrates. Inner vibrations in the skull create inner sounds, so I can still hear the sound of color, but it's a different sense from hearing through my ears. I can feel sound, and it's an inner vibration. So once I had the antenna designed, I went to a doctor, and then I tried to convince them to allow me to have an antenna implant, because I went to the doctor and said I wanted an antenna implant, and he said, sorry, we don't do this here. We don't implant antennas. If you want to have an antenna implanted, you'll have to convince the bioethical committee. So I explained the surgery to the bioethical committee, and they said it was not ethical to have an antenna implanted. First of all, because it goes beyond the visual spectrum. Secondly, because it's a new body part. And third, because they were extremely worried about the image the hospital would have if someone came out with an antenna sticking out of the head. So the surgery, they said no, but then I tried to find a doctor willing to do the surgery anonymously, and there are doctors around the world willing to do this type of surgery. This is a trans-species surgery because it's the addition of an organ that is not traditionally human, and it's the addition of a sense that is not traditionally human. So it's a trans-species surgery because we are adding senses and organs that are not traditionally human. So the trans-species surgery happened, and this is my head facing down. My head was drilled 4 times, so we'd have 4 implants. One is the chip that vibrates depending on the light frequency. 2 other implants are the antenna structure that are allowed to the organ to be integrated inside the skull. And we decided to add a 4th implant, which is internet connection, so I can receive colors from external devices, and I can also connect to external devices, so I can sense colors that are far away from me. So this was closed, and then the antenna and my head took 2 months to merge, so this is now part of my skeleton. I'm officially taller now, because this is my body part. And now this is a part of my perception as well. Having the internet connection allows me to receive colors from 5 different people. I gave permission to 5 friends from different continents. They can use their mobile phone to stream live images from their mobile phone to my head. So if there's a beautiful sunset in Australia, my friend from Melbourne can stream live images from the sunset to my head. So I could be here, but suddenly be receiving colors that are somewhere else in the world. If they send colors when I'm asleep, they either wake me up or they color my dreams. So sometimes if someone starts sending yellow colors, my dream becomes yellow. So I dream of bananas or lemons, depending on the color. Or they can also influence the direction of the dream. So I see this, the use of the internet as a sense. We've been using the internet as a tool and a communication system for many decades now. And I think the next stage is that we'll start using the internet as a sensory extension or as a sense itself. My brain has changed. I now define myself as a cyborg because I feel no difference between the software and the brain. I feel no difference between the antenna and any of my body parts. And this is what I tried to explain to the UK government in 2004, because there's a law that says electronic equipment is not allowed on passport photos. So they said I had to remove the electronic device in the picture. I replied saying that this is not a device, this is a body part, and that I felt cyborg, and that they should accept it as official image. They said no, so it became like a small battle, and in the end they said yes, so they allowed me to appear with the first prototype of the antenna, and this helps me travel around the world. I'm now applying for Swedish citizenship because all the material I used to create this new body part is Swedish, so I am Swedish. So I'm telling them that I think there should be a 6-point here where it says that if you have a Swedish body part, you should also be entitled to apply for Swedish citizenship. They still haven't replied, but I think that in the future we might see more people identifying from a certain country depending on where the body parts that you have come from. My life has changed in many different ways. Before I would dress in a way that it would look good. Now I can dress in a way that it sounds good because I can decide what notes to wear. So this would be a C major combination. These 3 colors are happy, so it creates C major. This is a minor chord, so I dress like this in funerals because it's a sad combination. And you can also wear a song. Depending on the patterns that you wear, you can actually wear a melody. This is a tie that I designed that sounds like electronic music. So when I look at the tie, I can hear electronic music. So the longer the tie, the longer the melody. Interior design is also a big difference now. If I want a house to sound good, I would paint it violet, blue, pink, and yellow. Sounds C major in the living room. Floors would be red, because red is the lowest frequency, so it gives a profound sound to the whole house. Ceilings would be black and white, because if you lie down, then you have silence in the ceiling. Exit doors would be green, because green is in the middle of the spectrum, so it tunes yourself before you go out in the street. Bedrooms would have 3 colors. Turquoise, which is B, then pink, which is E, and violet, which is D. So you have B, E, D, bed. So it makes sense to have these 3 colors in a bedroom. And then kitchens would be violet, because violet is in the highest range of the spectrum. So it tunes you, like it wakes you up in the kitchen. And it's also a color that we don't usually eat. Food is also a big difference now because I can hear food. So I really like listening to salads because salads have lots of different colors. So I can actually compose music with food. Depending on how I put the food on the plate, I can eat a song. So I've done a project with a restaurant where you can actually go there and ask for some songs, and then you have a menu with different song options, and then you can eat Mozart or have some Lady Gaga dessert. The colors are placed on a food player, and then it rotates, and then you can hear the sounds of the colors. So you can literally hear the sound of the food, and you can eat different songs. So now I can compose music by looking at things. I don't need to play an instrument. If I look at different colors, I can compose music. And if I amplify the sounds from my head to the audience, then I can share this music with an audience. So I simply look at things, and that's how I create music. They're called color concerts. So I really enjoy just walking around supermarkets, because that's where I find most music. It's like going to a nightclub for me. Supermarkets have lots of colors, so they have lots of different notes, especially the zone with cleaning products. That's the most exciting area of all supermarkets, because they have very unexpected colors, very saturated, and they're always new colors that come from other companies. This is just a little example of a composition based on color frequencies. Milk is silent, so it's not only supermarkets and products. I can also now go to a museum. I can listen to a Picasso, and I can listen to an Andy Warhol. All painters have become composers, and they all sound different. You can easily differentiate a painter from another. This is I can literally hear the scream, for example. This is the sound of the scream. It has different microtones. And for example, painters like pop art painters sound very loud because they're very saturated, so you can easily hear an Andy Warhol from the other end of the museum because it's very loud usually, very saturated, whereas older paintings sound less. Also, the way I sense people has changed, because when I look at someone's face, now I can hear their face, so I can listen to the eyes, the hair. So I like doing sound portraits, where I look at someone, I write down the notes, and then I send them an MP3 of their face, and I call these sound portraits. The first one of the first ones I did was of Prince Charles. I asked him if I could listen to his face, and this was his reaction when I asked him. Judi Dench has silent hair, for example. James Cameron has a very high-pitched sound of skin. Al Gore has different notes in his eyes, different shades of turquoise, so different notes. Steve Reich has a melody in his eyes because he has some patterns. Steve Wozniak has very pure green eyes, so it's very pure A, like green apples. Moby sounds less than other people because he has no hair, it's one note less. Robert De Niro has very, very high sound pitch of lips. Woody Allen, very soft, very unsaturated. Philip Glass, very, very microtonal. And Bono had very loud glasses here. So we all have different shades of colors. What really shocked me is that people who say they're black, they're not black. And people who say they're white, they're not white. People who say they're black, they're actually very, very dark orange. And people who say they're white, they're very, very light orange. So the fact that people say that we are black and white is completely false. We are all orange. So hearing faces also allows me to create face concerts where I play the audience's colors. So they cue, and then I start playing someone's eyes, someone's lips, and I create rhythms. And the music is based on the colors of the audience. So if the concert sounds really bad, it's their fault, not my fault, because that's where the music is coming from. The last face concert was of Prince Albert II of Monaco. He likes the sound of his face so much that he's now using it as his ringtone. So whenever someone calls him, he hears the sound of his face. So when we started this project in 2003, we had no idea what would happen. This could have gone completely wrong. We had no precedence of what would happen if I would merge with this antenna permanently. We had no problem. It could have been two problems. One could have been that my brain rejected the sense. The other problem would have been that my body would have rejected the body part. But it all went well, except that we have a secondary effect, which is that sounds also became color. It's not only color that becomes sound, but sound also becomes color. So this allows me to paint what I hear. This is Mozart's Queen of the Night, note by note. So I can hear Mozart's Queen of the Night by looking at the painting. So I can now paint music. And this is Baby Baby by Justin Bieber, which looks very different from Mozart. I can also paint speeches. When we speak, we use different frequencies. So each speech or each voice has a dominant color. And also this code can be used by other musicians where instead of reading a score, they read the colors on stage, and that's the score. Also public sculptures that allow you to hear melodies. By downloading an app, you can hear a song in the street and at night as well with projections. So this sense can be extended to other people. Having the antenna implanted has created some social reaction. I've been out in the street since 2004, March, with an antenna, so people have stopped me in the street asking what it is. It has changed what people think it is. In 2004, most people thought it was a reading light, so they would ask me if I could turn on the light, or they were wondering what my book was, because I had no book. In 2005, 6, they thought it was a microphone, like this one, a microphone chat, internet chat. In 2007, 8, they thought it was a hands-free telephone, so they thought I was on the phone. In 2009, they thought it was a GoPro cam, that I was filming my life. In 2012, they thought it was something to do with Google Glass. In 2014, children would ask if it was some kind of extendable selfie stick. And since last year, people just shout at me Pokemon and they try to catch me. So it's changed. I just hope that in the 2020s, people will just think it's a new sensory organ, an antenna implant, and that there'll be more people with new organs and new senses. That's why I created the Cyborg Foundation with Munribas in 2010 to encourage other people to create their own senses and their own body parts. We've done several projects. This is an internal radar. It allows you to feel speed by feeling the interval between someone walking from left to right or right to left. You can then detect the exact speed of someone walking in front of you. If you turn them around, you can sense if there's someone behind you, so it gives you retroception. Senses that we are now giving to machines could also be adapted for us so that we can feel what machines are feeling. We also created the seismic sense, which is implanted inside Munriba's body. Whenever there's an earthquake in the world, her body vibrates. So now she's in Barcelona, but if there's an earthquake in China, she will feel the earthquake in her body. So she has two heartbeats, her own and the earth beat. And that gives her a very deep connection with Earth. She now has another implant that will allow her to feel the moonquakes, the seismic activity of the moon. So the internet can actually allow us to have senses outside this planet. I also use the internet connection to connect to NASA's International Space Station so that then my sense of color is no longer on Earth, but in space, so I can explore the colors of space while being here. I think that's a new form of space exploration. We call it becoming a senstronaut or a mindstronaut, where you can send your senses to space and explore space while your body is here. So in the future, we might be able to 3D print ourselves in other planets and use the internet to connect our senses to our second bodies. Instead of physically traveling to Mars, we can simply connect to our second bodies in Mars by using the internet as a sensory extension. And this is a primitive form of starting to explore sensstronautism. This is Cyborgness. We offer senses to other people as well. This is the north sense that can be acquired. So you can place it in the middle of your body, and then you feel a vibration whenever you face north. So this gives you a sense of orientation, a sense that many other species have. And I think this is the whole point is extending our senses to the level of other animal species. My aim was not to become closer to machines, but to become closer to nature and to become closer to other animal species. And I feel much more connected to nature because I can sense natural elements such as infrared and ultraviolet, and I can share a sense with other species. If I see my cat staring at the wall, but I sense this infrared between the cat and the wall, I know that my cat is probably staring at the infrared, not at the wall, so I share a sense with another species, and it connects me with it in a stronger way. So I think extending our senses to the level of other animal species will allow us to feel more connected to them and to nature itself. Just to end some of the projects that I did last year, which are very simple projects, but this one is very relevant. If you have a tooth missing, you could have it replaced with a small tooth that we created that has a small LED inside. So in case of total darkness, you can just click, and then you have emergency light inside your mouth. So this is called bioluminescence. Is this? Where's this coming from? Bioluminescence, it gives you you can create light when you are in total darkness by clicking. So if you have teeth missing, you can have it replaced with a small tooth with a LED inside. We also created a new system of communication because I have a space tooth missing as well here. So I had a tooth placed in my mouth, and another tooth was placed in Munriba's mouth. And whenever I click, she feels a vibration inside her mouth, and then whenever she clicks, I receive a vibration in my mouth. We both know the Morse code, so depending on the rhythm, I can send her a word, and then she can reply with another word. We call this the transdental communication system, which allows you to communicate from mouth to mouth without the need of ears or vision. Also, it works through Bluetooth, so it's basically you click, It goes through Bluetooth to the mobile phone, from mobile phone to mobile phone, and from mobile phone to the mouse. So it's actually a Bluetooth tooth that allows it to communicate from mouth to mouth. I finished now. Yes, this is the last one. I'm just creating a new sense for myself, which is going to be implanted inside my head. We all have a sense of time, but we don't have an organ for the sense of time. So I've created an organ for the sense of time, which will basically give me a point of heat that will go around the head, and it will take 24 hours for the heat to go around. So I will feel the orbit of the planet in my head. Feeling the orbit of the planet will give me a sense of time. So whenever my brain gets used to this, I'll see if I can modify my perception of time. If I want time to go slower, I'll program it so that the heat goes a bit slower, so that I might be able to extend my perception of time of a certain situation. Or if I want time to go faster, I'll program it differently. If I'm on a plane, I'll put it on flight mode so that I have less jet lag when I get at the destination. And also, it should allow me to travel in time if I make it spin twice or several times. So it's basically taking Albert Einstein's theory of time relativity into practice and see whether or not we can modify our perception of time if we have an organ for time. In the same way that we can create optical illusions because we have eyes for vision, I think we can create time illusions if we have an organ for time. So this is the experiment I'm going to start this year. Thank you very much. This is it. Thank you.